In this video, I want to show you a way that you can use the text comparison tool in Logos to Sherlock Holmes your way through some Bible translation questions that can come up. Now, Rylan Brown has already done an awesome explainer video on how to use the text comparison tool and what exactly it is, so I'm not going to take time to walk you through how to use the tool, but I would encourage you to go ahead and check out our L9 advanced course on how to use Logos, and you can just go in the Logos Daily Circle, type text comparison, and you can find that video specifically that he made there. But a little bit about myself to explain why we're doing this video. I am a word nerd. I love languages. I love English. I love Greek. I love Hebrew. And sometimes when you're reading along in a Greek or Hebrew passage, and then you check the way that was translated in English, you realize that the translators made a choice that doesn't quite match the normal definition for that word. And it leaves you scratching your head going, why did they choose this particular word? Now, I suppose in a more modern version, you could maybe email a translation committee or check with the publisher, but I grew up using the King James. It's what I memorized. It's what I'm used to, so it's still my default Bible. And that was written about 400 years ago, so it's not like we can exactly go and ask the translators why they made a certain choice. But what you can do is you can trace throughout history how certain Bible translation choices were made and get a little bit of a feel for why any one particular one could have been translated a certain way. So I'll show you. You open up the text comparison tool, and we are going to create a specific list based on English history. Now, I do want to say English is my native language, so if you are coming from a different native language, say like Spanish, this would be slightly different for you because your versions may not have been based on these same English versions, but I'm sure you could relatively easily tweak this with Spanish versions throughout history to do the same. But for the case of this video, we'll talk about English history. So I will start off with doing the King James, type in KJV, and I have this here. I need to remove some of these for the sake of what I'm doing. There we go. So we'll start with the KJV, and then we are going to go to the Vulgate, which I have here, Clementine Vulgate, and then add in Wycliffe, right here, Holy Bible, Old and New, and then add in Tyndale, right here, the New Testament, and do Geneva Bible. So these together, looks like I might need to add King James again. Oh, nope, still up there. Okay, so King James, Vulgate, Wycliffe, Tyndale, and Geneva. Now, there were other Bible versions throughout English history, but these are kind of the main ones that get you up to that point. So if you click Save, and I call mine English history, but you can call it whatever you want, and save it. So now, whenever you have a verse, you can see, now I have King James as my base translation. You can do whatever your preferred is, whether it be ESV, NASB, whatever. Most English Bibles, even the more modern ones, take into account what the King James had there already. So it'll work, even if you use a more modern Bible. So you have King James, and then Vulgate would be the next one, and Wycliffe, then Tyndale, then Geneva Bible. So I have them going in chronological order, but I start off with King James there as my base one, so I can see the differences from there. And you can see, was this translation choice chosen because it matches something from the Vulgate, or maybe it was a choice that Wycliffe made. I'll show you how this works in action. If we go to Luke 2:1, King James says, "It came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed." Now, if you're in this verse, let's do Luke 2:1, you'll notice that the Greek word for taxed comes from the root apographo. Now, if you know a little bit of Greek, you probably recognize grapho for writing. So this has the idea of something being written down, and that's not quite the same thing as taxing. So you're going to go, where did they get this idea that it would be taxed? So you can look at the Vulgate and Describerator. That still has the idea of writing down. So you go, I guess they didn't choose that based on the Vulgate. Wycliffe, you can still see influence from the Vulgate there. Described, coming from that same Latin root. But once we get over to Tyndale and Geneva, you can see that they chose tax. So it gives you a little bit of history on where that came from. And you still have to ask, why did Tyndale make that choice? But it at least gets you a little bit of an answer for the version that you are using. So it's a fun way to trace English history and why the choices were made that were